All right, we'll just start then. All right, so first I'd like to thank AppDynamics for inviting us to speak overall. I personally like to thank AppD for AppSphere, so I have an excuse to be in Vegas, right? I mean, in the past I didn't need excuses. Now, with a wife and 2 kids, I need these excuses to get out to Vegas overall. What's that? Yeah, there you go. Right. Thank you. So my name is Paul Palaganis. I am a senior manager of product engineering in Comcast. I don't know if everyone's joined the keynote, but we were just kind of joking around about that with our customer experience net promoter score. You know, Comcast is kind of sliding in there at what, like 90, was it? I know it's still a challenge, and I think that's kind of what my team's been tasked with from a commercial standpoint to help improve our customer experience overall. Harsha Maganti, unfortunately, was not here yet. He'll be coming a little bit later. I have 3 other people on my team here as well. Cindy Chang, she's a senior product engineer. James Jenkins and Ted Remlinger as well, who are also product engineers on the commercial product standpoint overall. So what is product engineering at Comcast? So product engineering is basically being able to build end-to-end solutions for our products. And again, we focus on the commercial products for our business overall. It requires us to be able to integrate multiple systems, multiple platforms, multiple applications in order to be able to deliver these products to our customers. In addition to system integration, my team is also responsible for not just integrating the systems themselves. Because of Comcast being such a large company, you tend to become a team that also has to integrate organizations overall. So at Comcast, like many other large corporations, we tend to have a very highly distributed environment. And what I mean by highly distributed is that we have individual teams and organizations who are responsible for very discrete functions. So I know it's typically built with these large companies. You have what they call, based on sheer scale and size, you have this ability to share functional synergies, right? So whether it's a centralized HR, centralized IT, or a centralized finance department. At Comcast, this synergies, or at least these discrete functions, also extend to our technical teams as well. So at Comcast, we actually have teams, individual organizations who are responsible for discrete functions like order management, TN inventory, authentication, voicemail, sales tools, care tools, you name it, operations. We have multiple teams, multiple organizations. And when you engineer solutions that span multiple systems, multiple applications, multiple platforms, you're forced to begin working with multiple organizations as well in order to actually deliver these solutions into production. So in a distributed environment, we don't necessarily follow, because of multiple organizations, similar standards kind of across the different applications, the different platforms. What I want to share with you real quickly is just an example of one of the products that my team was able to help deliver recently.
The conference call, the ultimate arena for business. Hour after hour of diving deep, touching base, and putting ducks in rows. The only problem with conference calls, eventually they have to end. Unless you have the Comcast Business Voice Edge mobile app. It lets you switch seamlessly from your desk phone to your mobile with no interruptions. I've never felt so alive.
Get the future of phone, and the phones are free. Comcast Business, built for business.
So I don't know how many of you have seen that commercial or familiar with the product itself, but our team here actually helped deliver that solution overall. That mobile app was actually a solution that spanned 10 different systems and 9 different organizations. And there's a funny side story there with Titus. I don't know if people are familiar with the commercial talent, but when Titus first came around to begin begin filming this commercial, he was asked if he needed an engineering lead to help walk him through the actual application, so he had a good understanding of how to kind of walk through it in the commercial. They actually downloaded it onto his mobile device. They let him play with it, and he actually said, I mean, to a testament to the team, that it was very user-friendly, and he was able to just get it just without any engineering support overall. So I think that's a good segue for the team on that end. But like I said, the application itself was built on 10 different systems across 9 different organizations. And in 2012, and it was a feature built for Business Voice Edge, in 2012 we actually launched Business Voice Edge in late 2012. Following shortly, we had, it was a friendly launch in 2012. We let it launch for a couple quarters. And the marketing team actually came to our team and said, we want to do a national launch of the Business Voice product across the nation. And they wanted to showcase this product itself, the actual mobile app for Business Voice Edge. We had 3 months to build it. The team was able to actually deliver it over time, and we were able to launch that commercial within that time frame. But what was interesting for Business Voice Edge, it's had a growth rate of over 80 to 100% per year since launch. Since that growth, obviously comes challenges. And with that success, we started to see, in the beginning of this year, challenges with the mobile app itself. So we're having performance issues overall. So when we did have the performance issues in production, we went to each of the different teams, so 9 different organizations, and we asked each of them, we're having performance issues, we're seeing degradation to the customer, we need to begin working through identifying what the big challenge was. You go to, and I think this is part of Joe's comments during the keynote. We went to each of the different teams. We're green, we're green, we're green, we're green. Each of the organizations came back and said, because of different standards, each of them have come back and said, no, we're meeting our SLAs, we're meeting the KPIs that we were required to meet, and we have no issues with our specific platform. So in comes in AppD. So working through a solution like this, we installed AppD to begin tracking the business transactions for the mobile app kind of across each of these different platforms. And we were able to pinpoint the issue for the mobile app, and we were able to work with that organization to actually address that issue in production and continue to have that monitoring service within our production environment. Right? So I think that's one of the big values that we're seeing with AppD today. One of the newer challenges that we're trying to work through overall as a product engineering organization at Comcast, we're also responsible for helping innovate the products for Comcast. And what's the best way to actually innovate our products is being able to collect the right data and information in the right context for us to be able to work with our product and our business teams to begin innovating these products overall. When you look at data and context, it really depends on the business and it really depends on the products that you're actually serving. So it's different if you were a supermarket versus entertainment versus telecommunications. I mean, when we look at telecommunications today as a product engineering team, we're starting to see that voice is starting to hit that tipping point overall. When you're looking at wireline voice, for example, only 10 to 15 years ago, I still recall having wireline services that were based on products like LD, long distance, international long distance, call waiting, 3-way calling. I know personally I was spending hundreds of dollars a month because I did have a long distance relationship with my girlfriend then, wife now, when I was working overseas and kind of across the country, looking for these products that would give me the best rates for a specific NPA, NXX, or specific LADA, or distance-based rating for wireline service. Fast forward to today, you're looking at carriers who are just offering all you can eat plans for wireline services. and is typically just an add-on service to some of the triple play, quad plays that you're seeing being offered today in the marketplace. So in the past, the information that was required to be able to drive innovation to these products really lied in that feature and product level, right? So it was very clear from a wireline voice standpoint how the customer was actually engaging that product or using that service. They were accessing the service directly through the network. They're connecting through a physical phone. They're connecting through the wire. So it was easy enough to be able to begin collecting the right data and correlating it correctly to be able to define how we're going to innovate these products and how the customer, based on how the customers were actually using it. So the challenge that we see today is what data and context is actually required then versus now. Our VP, David Stishka, he was a product engineer for GE voice applications 20 plus years ago. I know he doesn't give us specific dates around that. But when he worked at GE, he was actually responsible for building a tool called CER, which stood for Customer Experience Record. And that tool was actually built to analyze customer experience across the network. So similar to what I was describing earlier around wireline service. Let's monitor the network, the call routing, let's get a sense of the latencies, the different types of call quality issues that we're seeing for their customers overall. His claim to fame was he was able to build this tool over a series of years, and he was able to predictively monitor challenges that they were seeing across the network from a voice standpoint. He actually was able to go to regional carriers, and he was able to explain to them, hey, you're having issues within this area for this specific call routing, for this specific type of call quality. And he was telling these regional carriers before they even knew that they were having issues overall. But when you look at what CER was built on, or at least how it was built from a voice standpoint, most of the data was pulled directly from the network itself. So the switches, the network infrastructure, the value-add services, the network elements that were required to be able to support voice services in the past. And when you look at these network elements, when you look at these tools, most of them had a very standard protocol, right? They had very strict standards around how you make specific calls, what your request and response formats look like, and very standard templates. So when you look at how they built CER, the Customer Experience Record, with the specific protocols, they were able to correlate the data because they had similar data kind of across the different networks and they were able to begin providing that context for how the product was being used and how to innovate it. But when you fast forward to today again, our voice products, they're not just being accessed through a physical phone, through the wireline. They're now being accessed through other customer-facing tools or solutions that we just presented here, things like the mobile app. There's soft phones, there's portals. And when you look at these customer application tools and how they're built, there aren't many clear standards that are being defined around how to define the request response formats. What are the specific details that need to be included with these specific calls overall? And what you also see is that the platforms and the systems and the technologies that these customer-facing solutions are being built on are actually evolving. I mean, every 2-3 years, you're seeing new technologies being delivered for iOS, for Android, for web-based services. You're seeing these technologies constantly change. And so when you look at the challenge our team sees from a product engineering standpoint, being able to collect the right data and put it in the right context is a challenge. We need tools like AppDynamics to help us begin building that overall view. So the challenge for the team target for the next couple of years overall is being able to build a framework. I know we're calling it the NCER, which stood for the new Customer Experience Record Framework, that will be able to collect the contexts from a business, a product, and engineering, and a user perspective to be able to provide that correlated information, that correlated data, so we can drive and innovate our products going forward. From a engineering standpoint, how to deliver this type of framework, there's multiple approaches that we can take. We can actually take the same approach that CER was originally built on, right? We can come back to each of the different application teams who've built or we're integrating to or interfacing with and define standards. So here's a set of standards that we need to follow in order for us to be able to collect the right information in order to actually build a proper CER record, a customer experience record from that perspective. Or we can just embrace that technologies are moving quickly and that we're not able to keep up with defining standards, and we're just going to slow down the development and the speed to market for some of these products and begin leveraging tools like AppDynamics overall to begin driving and collecting the right information and correlating this information into the right context that's required to be able to innovate our products. So when we look at the NCER framework in telecom, the user experience, it spans multiple, from an end-to-end standpoint, it spans multiple platforms overall. So you have the network itself, you have, again, the access through specific wireline devices, through mobile apps, through portals, and the like. And so for my team, we're looking to begin leveraging AppD to begin collecting that information kind of across that end-to-end. I know we've installed it already for our mobile app. So for our mobile app, we have the information already being collected. I know that we're still working through some of the challenges with integrating with other teams. We've installed it for the portal, and we are looking to partner with AppD to begin looking at collecting information at the network level as well. I think John Sexton, during the keynote, kind of put it correct. He said that when you look at data today, it's kind of data overload when you're looking at the different types of technologies that we're using today for our end user and customer experience. And it's really leveraging tools like AppD that will help us build that customer experience context overall. All right. So outside of that, I think that's the presentation I want to bring back to the team overall here. I don't know if you guys had any specific questions around the implementation of AppD at Comcast or anything specific? Anything? Go for it.
You mentioned SLAs in 9 different teams. One thing that we try to promote in AppD is move away from SLAs. More like business level agreements and deviating from normal. Have you started to have those conversations with the teams, or do you think that AppD can lead you down that path where it's not about being under 2 milliseconds, it's about being different than you should be given this period of time?
Right. Yeah, so I think when we look at AppD today, looking at business transactions, the way that AppD is able to tag kind of across the view, it's starting to speak directly about customer experience. So when you're looking at, I know for CER, the approach is for any key function that a customer is performing and how they're accessing it, we want to be able to view it as what's a suitable, I mean, just like they said, this is a Sev1. If it takes 5-10 seconds to perform this function, it becomes a Sev1 to the customer, right? They're immediately calling out issues and calling into our customer care overall. So we're starting to use AppD to help define that overall performance for these business transactions. So it's no longer about specific SLAs, it's about let's identify the challenge around that specific function and how to improve it overall, right?
Are all 9 of those teams using AppD as a sales guy?
What's that?
Are you talking to those other teams?
Some of the teams are already, I think some of the teams you've spoken to already, I think that they are using it as it is. So we'll begin integrating with the rest of those teams going forward.
For what it's worth, we have the Comcast folks
So we went with on-prem because some of the transactions that were flowing through did have CPNI issues. So we did work through pushing a lot of those transactions onto the on-prem solution overall. So like I said, there are other organizations. I mean, we're across multiple organizations. Other organizations are beginning to use AppD as well. Some of these organizations are SaaS. So we're working with AppD to see how we can begin really integrating each of the different solutions that have been deployed for Comcast overall.
What are some of the metrics you guys are capturing and benefits you're seeing from your AppDynamics?
So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to build utilization rates at a feature level. So we're beginning to look at each of our products from a commercial standpoint and beginning to look at each of the specific features and working through utilization rates of customers during specific peak and non-peak hours overall. So that's one of the key metrics that we're looking to collect. And we're also looking at trending from a performance standpoint overall, again, during peak, non-peak, as well as just different times of the year as well.
I think also to that point, Jacob, one of the things we were able to do was we just rolled out a new version of the mobile app for a different customer base. And one of the things we noticed was a production defect kind of right off the bat. Luckily, we didn't have a lot of calls come in, but we were able to fix it kind of before we got that influx of customer calls and proactively solve the problem.
Was that finding demo that Joe talked about, right?
Right. Yeah, we were going to start calling them and say, sorry about that, but we didn't go that far yet.
Is Kaylon here? No? Alrighty. No other questions? Okay, go for it. Oh, we have one more here. Sorry.
So what did you find out out of the box when you installed AppDynamics? Because you said there was some degradation somewhere and no teams that was your problem.
Yeah, so the issue that we found was in one of the interfaces, it was showing green in their view from a monitoring standpoint because they were getting request responses. The issue and the timing around those request responses were within their SLA. The challenge was that those request responses were actually error request responses. So you would hit up to 10 to 25 different calls before you got that success call across it. Really, from a queuing standpoint, it was basically the queues were overfilling, and we were able to identify that the errors were within that specific interface, and we kind of worked through that with them. Any other questions? All right, that's all I had, guys. I appreciate it. Sorry for going so fast.